Hey everyone, I'm Jon-David Leonard.
I'm Danielle Leonard.
And I'm Kenny Vasquez.
Hey, welcome Kenny.
Yeah.
So on another episode of Keeping It Real, where we discuss all things real estate here on Long Island, we are happy to have you join us. How are you feeling today?
Pretty good. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little nervous to be on this side of the camera.
Yeah.
But, I've been in front of the camera a couple times here and there, so we'll see how this goes.
All right, yeah. So it's got to be difficult for you to surrender control of the camera and just be here with us to talk about, the fact that we've been taping this for a few episodes now, but you've been a videographer for us for some time now at different events that we've done. And a lot of what people see when we have professional videography is actually done by you. And Nick, who's behind the camera, saying hi right now.
How's it going?
Nick behind the camera, who's editing on your behalf.
Yeah.
So tell us about your experience and your journey to the podcast that we have today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a little backstory about myself.
Yeah.
I've been a videographer in some capacity since literally ninth grade.
Wow.
At this point, I took a whole bunch of different digital media classes, digital video, things like that. I actually wound up joining the video yearbook. So I was editor-in-chief of the video yearbook for 3 years in a row, from 10th to 12th grade. So I was able to kind of manage a team of videographers that went to all the different sports and different events and did a lot of editing back then as well. That was when we were on like Final Cut X or something like that. It was like so long ago at this
Was
point.
it like a handheld camera on the
That's what it
shoulder?
felt like. Yeah, absolutely. We were using like tiny little Sony cameras, nothing crazy.
Right.
This is also back in like 2007, 2008, and 2009 is when I actually graduated high school. And then from there, I went over to Farmingdale State College, did a visual communications degree, did a little bit of business in there as well. So it took me about 5 years to do the 4-year program, but worked out really nicely for me. I did an internship from my photography teacher while I was there. I wound up working at a photography studio around the block from the school, which worked out really nicely for me as well. Did like 10 weeks of different, learning how to use different cameras and studio things, stuff like that for a wedding studio.
Okay, so, all right, so we went through a lot there.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the beginning.
Sure.
What drew you to videography in the first place?
Oh, absolutely. So I remember when I was a kid, my dad had a film camera. I remember using it a couple times here and there. And then my parents saw that I had an interest in it and wound up getting me like a little tiny film camera back in...
Film?
Yeah, well, I mean, this was like the Kodak Advantix or something like that.
Right.
So it was like not regular 35 millimeter.
Yes.
It's a little more advanced than that.
Okay.
It was like right before film died completely.
Okay.
So you had the experience of taking a photo and not getting that instant gratification.
Correct.
You know what it feels like to feel like you got the shot, but then having to wait and see how it came out.
Yeah.
Did that help contribute to your love of photography?
I think so too. Yeah, for sure. And that having to really get it right in camera is what I learned from even back then.
Mm-hmm.
And then also when I was jumping forward to when I was doing a lot of weddings and things like that, that you only have one chance.
Yeah.
If you mess it up, it's gone forever. So you have to get it right.
Yeah.
And I think that played a big part of me being able to handle the pressure of some of these shoots. And I know even like shoots like this, we have full control. It took us a little bit of time to set up and everything like that, but we have control of the lights, we have control of the mics, we have control of the volume. We can stop if we absolutely need to, but like on a wedding day, you can't do that. There's no, hey, can you just do that kiss one more time? There's none of that. That's not an option. So, being able to handle that pressure from there, and then also the creativity of all of that as well, I think is really what drives me every day too.
I think the thing also that's so important that helps having that as a background, the wedding thing, is that to be in the background while you're catching that moment, that kiss that you're not missing. Because like personally, in one of my events, the photographer and the videographer were so much in my face that all my memories of that event are of them.
Yeah.
Is that a talent, or is that something that can be developed, that eye for that moment and being able to capture it in that moment?
I think it definitely has some natural born talent to it. I don't mean to brag or anything like that, but some people have that eye and some people don't, and it is what it is.
But you can grow it, right? You can get better at it, right?
Correct.
Like some people are NBA, shoot 3-point shooters and they're going to make a lot of money doing that, but like they could still get better. And you find that you've like worked to hone it and get better over the years.
Yeah, if I were to go back to some of my original work that I've done in high school, even my photography, like negatives that we did from my photography class, where I actually learned the fundamentals, leading lines and rule of thirds and contrast and all these different types of like fundamentals of photography and videography in general, that over the years of seeing, okay, if I move myself over a couple inches, it's just going to look way better.
Yeah.
And if I take the time to remove something from the background before we start and perfect the lights and make sure that, the angle's correct, all that goes to making the final product better and also more efficient as well.
So it's that kind of thing that like even when I'm just like scrolling Instagram and something catches my eye and I'm drawn to it, and it almost seems like and by the way, I think there's value in low quality video just to capture like raw authenticity, but then there's this other side of it that when you're drawn to like almost like the cinematography of it, right? Like that, like you were able to achieve both. And that's one of the things I really like one of the reasons I really like working with you is because we can get that like raw, behind the scenes footage approach. But then in this situation where we kind of want a little bit higher level, because we're trying to evoke a certain feeling, a certain vibe, if you will, that, what we have to say we think is important. We're providing value. That's not just in what we say, but it's how we present it, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think there is definitely more of a trend over the last couple of years of that raw style, that behind the scenes, that not super perfect polished kind of look for certain types of content.
Right.
I think for your Instagram stories and some of your quick reels and things like that, you can get away with doing some of that more raw feel.
Yeah.
But then when it comes down to setting, like I said, a level of professionalism and that higher quality content, you want to take the time and the investment as well to have a little bit more of that professionalism, that crisp camera look, that, the perfect microphones and everything like that.
Yeah.
All develops some of that more polished pieces, and the raw stuff is what pulls people in.
Got it.
And then they see the polished stuff like, oh, okay, they know how to grab my attention, but they also know what they're doing.
Do you have any tips? Do you have any tips for like people doing just the raw stuff? Because like I've been watching on Instagram lately, some things where it's too fast. Like they're going through they're coming up to a house and it's like too fast, and it almost makes me a little nauseous, like watching the video.
Yeah, it takes away from
and it looks like it's an amazing house. It looks like it has the potential to be a great video, but
actually, I'll let you actually respond to that because I've got a follow up. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we're competing with a couple different things, right? We're competing with the younger generation that has, no offense to them, most of them have, just the older generation now at this point too, has zero attention span.
We're all there.
Correct. Yeah. I used to make a joke that we have attention span of a goldfish.
I knew that was coming. I was going to say goldfish. I think it is worse.
It's like worse than a goldfish.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're competing with people's attention span. You're also competing with the algorithm, where the algorithm doesn't, if somebody clicks away from your video because it's too boring and too slow and you didn't keep their attention the entire time, they're gone. And they're not the algorithm's not going to push that content in front of more people.
Right.
So you're competing with those two elements, but you're also trying to compete with all the other videos on the internet as well. That's the other factor too. But then you also have to find that happy medium of, okay, some of this information is really important and I can't rush through it.
Right.
If I rush through it, nobody's going to really understand it.
Right.
So I have to take the time. So what I tell people all the time is, if you're going to do some of that type of content, the social media quick stuff is what's going to grab their attention. And then you send them to the long form where they can really do a deep dive.
Right.
You can so they send them to a YouTube video where it's, 15 minutes long or something like that, but you grab their attention from the 1 minute video.
Got it. Yeah. So what you were saying, Danielle, about like the house tour, right? Yeah. The 15-second entire house tour, just like, and just grab their attention, make them intrigued, maybe slow it down, but have it still have the overall video be shorter, intrigue them enough to bring them to maybe the YouTube video or the reel that has that takes them through it longer.
Yeah. I'll jump on that real quick as well. I think the other thing that has to go along with those videos, if it's quick and fast paced, every single clip has to count. You can't have any fluff.
No fluff.
If it doesn't help tell the story in some way or another, cut it.
Yeah.
Nick will tell you, we've gone through videos where it's even if it's a minute and a half long, I'd rather take this clip out and extend this clip a little bit longer because this one has more of an impact.
We do that with photography in our listings too, because we do that separately. And, sometimes we'll have this great photo, but it just doesn't tell the story of the house.
Right.
Or we have a photo that feels like traditionally what most agents do, like it feels necessary. Oh, it's a half bath, right? It's so hard to shoot that powder room.
Yeah.
And sometimes it really just does not do the house justice. But what most people do is, most agents, they'll have it there because they feel like it's obligatory. We've made that hard decision to have it out. And when people show up because they've been intrigued enough to come see the house, it's almost like a pleasant surprise, like a gift. Like, oh my gosh, look at this cute powder room. They redid it and it's beautiful. Rather than just like a wide angle shot of like a toilet bowl.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Where it almost looks like a crime scene photo.
Yes, exactly.
100%. And I think I tell a lot of the realtors that we meet with all the time as well, is like, hey, like, I understand you have to have your standard photos on the MLS listing and everything like that, but also let your photographer get a little creative because then you can use some of those photos for other pieces of content in the future.
Right.
It goes into your social media feed.
100%.
Yes.
Take a picture of that cool chandelier, or take this other angle that you wouldn't necessarily need to put on the MLS.
Yeah.
But when you go to send a postcard out, you have the big room, but then you also have a tight shot of that cool detail.
Yeah.
Something that helps the property stand out in some way or another, because that's not just your cookie cutter white cabinets, gray shaker floors, everything like that, whatever they are.
No,
I don't know the terms, but you guys more than I do.
Sorry, yeah. Danielle, like I'm getting excited obviously because I can relate to this, right? Where we're talking to the photographer and we're like, again, tell the story of the house. Because what you were saying before about how you get like a very short period of time and every shot matters. You're trying to evoke a feeling, an emotion, but you're also trying to give them information. That's the same thing with the photography that goes into the MLS.
Yeah, for sure.
Because yes, they need enough information to know whether it's going to fit their needs and their requirements of what they're looking for. But then also create that like feeling of, I can imagine myself here. I'm picturing 99 River Heights Drive. They have a Viking range, a huge Viking range, right? With like 8 burners. And like, just like that shot coming across the top of it where the back, where's that called? Where behind it is all blurred out, like the tilt shift or whatever.
Oh yeah, some small depth of field.
Depth of field, exactly. Like,
Learn something new every day.
There you go.
That can be okay. So what do you think?
No, I think this is really like on point. And I do agree. I do love the idea of that extra shot that we're just talking about. I mean, even like back in the day, we had a house when they started doing the backsplash and they had the behind the oven would be the like a mosaic or something. And if you went from far away, it all looked wavy and blurred just the way the camera took it back then. And at that time we went up and we took a picture just of that, and that's what was in at the time. And it just, I feel like setting yourself apart and just doing something a little bit different, really, really enhances a video, enhances photos.
You were also talking about when you were going through your background that really intrigued me is that in high school, you had a team.
Yeah.
You had people and you sounded like you were the quote unquote captain of that team. It just happened to be instead of like, varsity football or soccer, it was varsity videography.
Yeah.
Right? Because you said you were in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And that, from such a young age to have that responsibility to be able to bring people together, how did that shape your career and your experiences as a videographer and photographer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that helped me develop, everybody on the team has certain skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to let those people shine at what they're good at doing.
Yeah.
Even here at Contour, I'm the marketing director here, and we have a team of 8 people. right?
Okay.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
And everybody on the team has something that they're really good at.
Okay.
You know, Nick, great at video, he's a fantastic photographer as well, great at editing. I think so. I make sure that if we're working on anything, Nick's going to be the one to edit it because they know he's got the skill set. We have another guy on the team, Tim, also a fantastic editor. He also does more of the long form stuff where we're getting really creative and really trying to tell a story because he's really good at that part, finding the clips that help to tell the story.
Yeah.
Right? And then I have other people on the team, this guy Nick, who is
Different Nick.
Another Nick. Yeah.
Another Nick.
The original Nick. Yeah.
The original.
Yeah. So what Nick is really good at is breaking down more of the analytics and diving into more of the technical side of
Interesting.
marketing. Right. And then I have a girl on the team, Tiffany, who's been here even longer than I have, actually. But she has a different mindset when it comes to what she wants to do, what she's great at doing. And she's also super organized and helps to keep the team in flow while I'm sitting here doing stuff like this and meeting with different clients and meeting with different realtors and things like that. She's taking care of the day-to-day and the minute-to-minute, where I say I'm more of on the grand scale as far as the management of things like that.
Tell me more about Tiffany. Now I'm intrigued.
Sure.
So you said you have like different ideas of direction. Can you just go more into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Tiffany is she also has a film major too, but she has a master's in graphic design. So her eyes on what looks good and what makes sense and layouts and things like that is what she shines at. So I make sure that the projects that she's working on are the things that matter the most to the company. So she takes care of a lot of the corporate side of things.
Okay.
She takes care of a lot of the larger projects that are going to have a more of a mass appeal to all of our people, as opposed to just a single one-off project, where that's maybe where I have Brandon or Sabrina, who takes care of some of those like single projects that are just for this loan officer or just for this set of realtors or things like that.
Got it.
You know, and then, I mean, you've dealt with Brandon quite a bit as well, so I definitely don't want to forget about him.
No, I was going to mention that.
Absolutely. Brandon, newer to our team.
Yes.
Probably the newest one on the team, actually, when it comes to that. But he's got a great mindset of more of the mentality behind marketing. You know, he doesn't necessarily have the technical skills as much when it comes to actually designing. He does, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Like, he's developed those over the years. That's what can be taught, you know, how to use the different programs, things like that. He's really come a long way when it comes to that side of things. But when it comes to the mentality of what makes marketing work, that is where he shines as well. So I have him involved in a lot of more of the strategies.
Okay.
And, you know, like our meetings that we have together where he's designing things, but he's also, you know, presenting them. He's very great at speaking with people and having conversation, and, you know, he can really shine very nicely in a group if he needed to. That's another thing too.
Yeah. So sorry. That's really important. I just want to point that out, right? Because if you need to have a good, strong interface between the subject and, in our case, the Lennar team,
right?
What we're trying to tell, the story we want to tell, in the way we want to tell it, with guidance, but also like with your expertise to also guide us in the direction to try to achieve what we all want to achieve. Right. So having somebody like Brandon, I have found to be really helpful in that regard to get the messages back and forth.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think what also plays a big factor into why our team has been successful with the marketing is we're all consumers. We're looking at it from the consumer's eyes.
Yes.
I'm actually kind of glad that we don't understand all the ins and outs of the mortgages and had all these different things with the real estate, because we don't worry about what the content says necessarily. How does that make me feel? I like that. How does this piece visually make me feel as well? And also helps us to kind of dumb it down a little bit sometimes, because sometimes you need to do that.
Right.
You know, you don't need to have a textbook definition, an encyclopedia definition of what this term means. Let's break it down to layman's terms and something that the regular person who doesn't know this industry can understand.
Okay.
You know, I think that's a very important part of marketing to the general public, because, you know, even for me, I get into the weeds of more of the mortgage side of things and the technical side of things because I know some of it now from being in the industry for so long.
Right.
But I'm luckily able to, when we do some of these videos and short form content and things like that, hey, you're getting into too much detail here. Like,
Yeah.
The regular homeowner knows how to make money to be able to afford a house, but they're coming to you for the expertise. We get it. You know what you're talking about. So please just break it down and make it a little more simplified to not bore people, to be honest with you.
That's why we're trying to call this keeping it real, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny because I remember even back in the day, we call like the terms that we use in business, CMA, comparative market analysis, that you really have to think that people don't know what we're all talking about. And the thing I love about video and that you help provide for us is that it makes it real. It gets us we're able to tell a story and show like really behind the scenes or what's important to us or what's important to our clients. Because ultimately, as we say, at the end of the day, you help us provide that 5-star level of service to our clients, the community.
That is one aspect, is to get people's attention and get to the people, and then you guys take care of the rest from there.
Right.
I've seen from, seeing reviews and working with you guys, I know what you guys are talking about. You guys are good at what you do from all the years of experience you guys have and things like that as well. And it works really nicely to be able to make sure that I can focus on making you guys look good.
Yeah.
And then you guys make the job easy for yourselves as well.
Exactly. Well, all this leads me to come full circle, right? Because everything that I've heard you talk about today, about from a younger age being exposed to film and videography, your passion about it, to go and bring it to your high school and have a team behind you to provide video for your school, to go to Farmingdale and get a filmmaker degree, and then finally to bring it to Contour, where you've been able to, again, build another team and provide value to your consumer and your clients. That, to me, is what makes a great team. And that, to me, expresses almost just perfectly about why, when I try to explain, or people ask us, Danielle, what makes the Lennard team great? Why are you guys special? Why are you successful? Why do you win? We're not even talking about real estate. This entire conversation was all about film and video. But everything that you're talking about, I was just getting so excited because I could relate to that. And regardless of the industry or business that you're in, when you're passionate about it, when you're a subject matter expert, and when you have a team behind you, you can't help but to succeed. So I really want to thank you for taking the time to join us today to have this conversation. And I got to know so much more about you just by having this conversation. So thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for coming on this side.
Yeah.
Next week, you'll be on the other side.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'll stay on the other side.
So Danielle, tell us about the market. What's been going on?
So actually, it's really interesting. So one of the things that we like to share, right, is that if you see something once, it's interesting.
Yes.
The second time, it's coincidence.
Yes.
And the third time, it's a trend.
Yes.
So we're still checking on the trend, but we're kind of checking it out. Very interesting this week, the market velocity is actually up. So last week, Nassau was, I think, 2.68.
Yes.
And it had come down from 3.01, and then and Suffolk was 2.89. The week before, it had been like 3.02. They were very close to each other. This week, Nassau County is 3.02, and Suffolk County is 3.2, which is actually up quite a bit. However, having said that, 0 to 3 month supply is a seller's market. Anything 4 to 6 is a transition market. Anything 7 and above is a buyer's market. We're teetering between a buyer's and a transition market. So, if you are wondering what's going on in your area, so interestingly, went on a listing appointment, got a listing in Smithtown yesterday, and it was 5.1. Today, another listing came on, it's 5.2. So is it a moment? Is it a trend? We're going to keep checking in because we'll keep you posted. It's a great time to know what's going on in your neck of the woods.
Great. Thanks.
All right.
Another great episode. Glad you guys were able to join, and looking forward to next week.